Okay, welcome everyone. Excuse me. Um, I am calling to order the Beacon Hill Architectural Commission public hearing at 5:02 p.m. on Thursday, June 18th, 2026. This is the June 2026 hearing of the Beacon Hill Architectural Commission. My name is Mark Kiefer. I'm the chair and joined today by Commissioners Fleck, Given, Jackson, and Steele. Today, the Commission will be holding a public hearing to review applications in accordance with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Executive Order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, including the several subsequent amendments. We're conducting this meeting online, which is say over Zoom. And so to ensure public access to the deliberations of the Beacon Hill Architectural Commission, the public may access this call through telephone and video conferencing, that is to say over Zoom. If you didn't catch it, this hearing is being recorded, so all further conversations between commissioners should be audible to the public in attendance until the hearing has adjourned. At this point, we'd like to acknowledge any media or elected officials currently present. I think I just saw Dan Murphy. Yeah, there's Dan from the Beacon Hill Times. Hi, Dan. Thanks for joining. Anyone else, media or elected officials? I don't think I see any. Certainly, if we overlook you, forgive us, and we will acknowledge you as soon as we find you. It's a long list, but I think we're good. Okay, so members of the public will have an opportunity to ask questions and provide public comment on applications and discussions. There'll be an opportunity as we adjudicate each application at a certain point while we're discussing each application. We'll give you the heads up and tell you that it's time to take public comment, and we'll just have that one period of public comment for each of the applications. And at that point, if you do want to be heard on the record, you will need to raise your hand, quote unquote, in the application via the Zoom meeting platform, which is hopefully in a little button that looks like a hand, sort of like this, probably at the bottom of your Zoom panel. And if needed, we'll repeat the instructions again, and I think Nick has them handily up on the screen right now. There's that raised hand button, which again should be along the bottom of your Zoom panel. And just one more time, when the time comes, we'll give you the heads up. And then at that time, if you want to be heard, please raise your hand using that button. Nick will call on you in turn in the order in which we're received and unmute you. He's going to need to unmute you. So yeah, we ask your patience in advance for that. Okay, I think we're ready to get started. We have first item on the agenda.
Mark, you want to just make an announcement about the
Oh,
adjustment in the agenda?
yes, thank you. So there is one application that, in case you have not seen the latest, which was 2 Walnut Street, and that has been removed by the staff. So we will not be adjudicating either the design review portion nor the administrative review portion for 2 Walnut Street. So 2 Walnut Street will not be heard this month. So if you were only tuning in just to hear that one or make a comment about that one, it will not be heard this month. Want to just make sure you don't sit through the whole hearing unawares. Thanks, Nick, for reminding me. Okay, so first up, we've got a couple of housekeeping items. We've got a ratification of public hearing minutes from actually 2 prior hearings, April and May, because we weren't able to get to the April ones last month. So we'll start with the April 16th, 2026 public hearing minutes. Commissioners, any questions, edits, revisions, concerns about the minutes as reported by Nick for April 16th, 2026 hearing? Okay, hearing none.
I would simply want to say I have to recuse myself on both of those minutes since I was not a party to those deliberations.
Yes, very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I wasn't a party to it either.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Okay, hearing no other edits or revisions, would anyone like to make a motion to approve them?
I so move.
Okay, do I hear a second? Okay, I will second it. Okay, so it's been moved and seconded to approve the April 16, 2026 public hearing minutes. We will vote. And again, understanding Commissioners Fleck and Given are recused. Nick, should they just abstain or can we just skip them?
I would just have them abstain.
Okay, so we'll take the vote and you guys can just abstain accordingly. Commissioner Fleck?
Abstain.
Commissioner Given?
Abstain.
Commissioner Jackson? I think Ralph, I thought, so log back on. Commissioner Jackson, are you there? Can you hear us?
Not seeing him.
Oh,
I
shoot, he
think
might
he
have dropped off
left.
again.
Yeah.
It was quick.
Okay,
So Mark, in the instance where there is not a enough commissioners to come to a vote, you have to have at least 3 to vote. Somebody who was not present does have the ability to vote according to our bylaws. Let me just see if or we could just come back to it at the end.
why
It's
don't we come back to it at the end? I think
sure.
we'll collect Ralph at some point.
I think that's fair.
I just saw a moment ago he was trying to log back in.
Yep.
Hopefully he'll get back in a moment. Okay, so let's table that for the moment, for want of a quorum
Fair.
of eligible commissioners. And then we'll turn. I'm just going to talk somewhat slowly here, like it's live TV, because it sort of is, with respect to the May 21st, 2026 hearing. Commissioners who are on the call, does anyone have any revisions or necessary edits to correct on the May 21st, 2026 public hearing minutes? Okay, hearing none. We still don't have Ralph. Okay, maybe we just table this as well, Nick?
I think
Come
that's
back to
fine.
it?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's pick it up after the design review portion, when we're done with everything else, or after the administrative review, I should say. Okay, so we'll move then, we'll table that as well for want of a quorum of eligible commissioners, and we'll return to it later in the agenda. We'll then go to section 1 violation review. First item on the agenda is 88 Mount Vernon Street, which is, let's see, that's AMC Property Services. Is there someone here representing 88 Mount Vernon Street? Raise your hand in the Zoom so Nick can find you. Is that Anthony McDermott?
Yep. Okay. Let's see. Anthony, you should be able to unmute yourself. There you go.
Hi, Anthony. Thanks for coming in, for zooming in. Do you want to just give us a brief summary? You've got your application, of course. Do you want to give us just a brief summary of what you're proposing to do to correct the violation?
Sure. Thanks for having me, first of all, and giving us the opportunity to remove this violation. So I went over to 17 Lewisburg Square. They've got a lovely brass enclosure with a lovely little door that opens that completely conceals the intercom, and that is what we had sent off to a manufacturer in Canada. It's going to be a solid brass, polishable. It'll be exactly the same.
Okay, so for our own edification here, we've seen a number of these, and that is a solution that we have approved in circumstances like this, not necessarily to say that we would always approve it, but to correct something like this where you've got this circumstance. Can you just describe to us, we're going to need drawings, of course, as a condition to approve this, but there it is. Thank you.
That is it.
Yes. Can you describe to us, you'll see here there's a hole at the top, which of course is for the camera. And then
Correct.
there's some 2 pieces of lettering, one that shows the address and the other that says pull to open. Can you just describe to us what, if any, elements like that will be in yours as well?
We're actually doing the exact same box. If that's okay, we would like to put 88 on there, Mount Vernon, and we'll have the same pull on the side. It'll have the little cutout square for the video, it's nice. It's a nice looking. I wish we had it in the beginning. I wish it was an option presented to us, and we would have done it immediately. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Very good. And just one clarifying question before we take public comment on this. Nick, could you switch back to the existing thing? Intercom? Yeah. We just want to make sure that none of the trim, because there are some nice architectural details here, will be obstructed by this. So is that in fact the case, that none of the trim will be obstructed by the box? In other words, it'll just simply take up the space that's now being taken up by this unit?
That's correct. So if you see that little protruding hood that goes over that unit, that'll come off. The box will slip over it. It doesn't take up any more space, and it should work out perfectly.
Okay, and then relatedly, it's no wider than that piece of trim that it
It is
sits on, right?
that's correct. It is no
Right.
wider than what is already there.
Okay, so it's not gonna hang over the edge. Okay,
Right.
great, thank you. That's quite helpful. Commissioners, before we take public comment, any further clarifying questions as to what's proposed here? Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead and take public comment. Again, as I mentioned earlier, if you want to be heard on the record, please raise your hand using that button that looks like a hand at the bottom of your Zoom panel, so Nick can find you and he will unmute you in turn.
Just waiting for the Civic Association to raise their hand.
Right. I
No?
see Rochelle is there. Maybe she doesn't have a comment.
There we
I
go.
think there we go.
Okay, Rob. Rob, go ahead. You're first.
Oh, hi. I'm not the Civic Association, honestly. No, my only question was, I noticed it follows up on Mark's question, which is about sort of the board that's right behind the video display unit. It doesn't look original to the molding. If you see it, if you zoom in, you can see it more clearly. It looks like it's a piece of either plywood or trim piece that's been screwed on. That doesn't look like it's original. I was just wondering if that's coming off as part of this. I like the brass enclosure. I think that's great. But I'm just wondering if that was going to stay on or stay off, or it's going to be covered by the brass. I don't think so, but I just don't know. It doesn't look original to me, to the original trim there or not, but it may have been added when that unit was put on. I'm not sure. That was my only question. Thanks.
Anthony, can you speak to that?
So the previous intercom, I believe, sat on that board as well. But I'd be happy to have a brass plate put on there instead of that that board. I think that might look considerably better.
Well, I think part of our we've got a couple of different objectives that may be somewhat at odds with each other here. Our first inclination, I think, is to make this thing disappear as much as possible, and
Right.
understanding that that's not entirely possible. I think we want to minimize the visual impact rather than draw further attention to it. But
Sure.
suffice to say, Anthony, that board, it's a little hard to read in this photo, but it's not like if you removed it, you would reveal that same profile that's above, right? It's whatever that it's sort of, yeah,
Oh,
that's
no.
gone.
Oh,
Yeah, okay.
I mean, I
So
wonder though if with a router, if a skilled carpenter could continue that profile down, they may be able to do that. I'm happy to see if that can be done and reach out to a carpenter and see if he can continue that profile down. I think that would make it look better, for sure.
yeah, Nick, are you I can't quite see that either. Oh yeah, so that is, does it just go all the way down, Nick?
It looks like it's segmented carving. So it looks like there's a square here and one here, and then kind of a rosette or something to here.
really?
Okay, so maybe I'm sorry, was that someone, Commissioner, want to get? Okay, yeah, maybe this is something we could leave to Nick to work with Anthony just to get the final details right. I appreciate the sentiment of trying to improve the look of this as much as possible. But I think okay, well, for the moment, let's just see if there's any other, I think we might have some other public comments. So let's just table that thought for the moment and collect any other comments. Thank you, Anthony.
Great. And thanks, Rob. Next up, we'll have
And Rob.
Megan from the Civic Association. Megan, go ahead.
Hi, everybody. Speaking on behalf of the Civic Association Architecture Committee. We do not oppose the brass cover box as it satisfies guideline E7 in the finishes 1, 3, or 4, as they are not pre-treated and would patina naturally. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. Mark, not
Thanks.
seeing any other public comments, so we can close it for this application.
Okay, thank you, Megan. Thanks, Rob. Okay, so let's see, I think this does, and Nick, you correct me if I'm wrong, but we have a de facto set of criteria that we've used. Again, we would prefer that such units are not installed in the first instance, but in order to correct them, understanding that there are features of these things like the safety features and so forth that are important. We have allowed such violations to be corrected in an analogous manner. And I think, Nick, correct me if I'm wrong, this basically fits the basic criteria under which we found it acceptable.
It fits all of them, correct.
Yes, great. Okay. In that case, I'm inclined to approve it as submitted with the proviso that we'll have provisos on the lettering and so forth, and some of the other conditions, but that also that Nick would work with the applicant to see what, if any, restoration of the molding profile is appropriate or desirable here. But commissioners, any other thoughts to the contrary or otherwise? Okay, one more time. Do we have Commissioner Jackson now, by the way? I think I saw him.
I believe he's
dialing in.
back. Yes. Let me just
Okay.
see if he can unmute himself. Let's see.
Right.
Oh, have to make him co-host. He's back.
Okay. Ralph, given that you might not have been able to unmute yourself a moment ago, can we, do you have any further thoughts on this one?
No, I'm reluctant to comment. I didn't hear most of the presentation.
Okay. The gist of it is they are going to cover the intercom with the brass box of consistent design from the others that we have previously approved. It'll just be the dimensions of the existing unit. It will not obscure any moldings. It will have lettering indicating the address and a small lettering saying pull to open. It'll have a small opening at the top for the camera, and it will not extend beyond the molding upon which it's mounted now. So I think with all those provisos, I find it's fine. And as Nick just said, it's also consistent with the circumstances in which we've approved similar covers in the past.
It's fine with me.
Okay, great. Anyone else, commissioners? I'll make a motion. If not, going once. Okay, I will move that the application be approved as submitted with the following provisos. Number one, that architectural drawings are submitted showing precisely where and how the brass box will be installed. Number two, that no architectural trim will be obstructed. Number three, that the box will have four sides and a door that obstructs any light source. That the box is installed within 90 days of approval, and that finally the nature and extent of any restoration of the molding profile above and below the box when it's installed be delegated to staff and approved in advance if any changes are warranted or agreed. Do I hear a second?
Second,
Okay, we will vote. Commissioner Fleck,
Aye.
Commissioner Gibbon,
Aye.
Commissioner Jackson,
aye.
Commissioner Kiefer votes aye, Commissioner Steele.
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much, Anthony, for coming in. You'll get a letter from Nick summarizing our determination and with all those details in it. If you have any questions, please feel free to follow up with Nick directly. Thanks.
Great. Thanks, guys. Have a nice weekend.
You too, thanks. Okay, next is 140 Mount Vernon Street. I think this is going to be a similar situation. Is there a representative from 140 Mount Vernon, which is Peter Sen or Senny? Forgive me if I'm mispronouncing that. 140 Mount Vernon.
I don't have a camera. You don't have to.
Is there a
Nancy.
representative from?
Nancy Chamberlain.
Oh, there you are. Hi, Nancy.
Hello, how are you?
Good. Thanks for dialing in. We've got your
Thank you.
application and so forth, but you want to just give us a quick summary of what you are proposing to rectify the violation.
Yes, I was with your group a couple of years ago so that we could get permission to paint our door, which we have since done. And Mr. Amada said that we would need to get the intercom in compliance with the Civic Association or the Architectural Commission. So at the time, we had a different management group, which we had hoped would take this over, but they didn't. And now our current management group has gone forward. Mr. Amata said that if we were to copy the 87 Beacon Street cover enclosure, then we would be in compliance. So Peter Sen has found a company that produced that, which is Make Architectural Metals. And they have done a drawing showing all the dimensions and everything we need to basically copy the 87 Beacon Street. We would use the same brass material, which would be in keeping with our the brass detailing we have on our current door. And we would do the lettering to match the Beacon Street lettering. We have the drawings. I don't know. There they are. Yes. And the hole is where the camera is.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I'm hoping we have everything that was requested in order for us to move forward.
I think so. It looks like it's in order. That drawing is very helpful. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
So again, just as with the previous one, it's brass box, it's hinged on the side, it's got a small opening for the cover, it's going to say the address engraved. That's going to be engraved in the brass, is that right? The
Yes.
140 Mount Vernon Street? Okay.
Yes, yes.
And it looks like it is going to be ostensibly the same size as the unit that's there now, understanding it's got to be
Correct.
ever so slightly larger.
Just to cover it slightly,
Yeah.
yeah.
Right. Okay. Can we go back to the photo of the existing condition just so we can orient the commissioners? Okay, so it's gonna go right there, basically.
Exactly.
Okay, so when it's installed, it'll be no wider than the key box below it, I hope?
Yes, exactly.
Right, okay. And this is, do we have a wider view that just shows where this is? This is on we see brick there, but really it's on the,
It's to the left of the front door.
yeah, it's not on the facade of the building. It's in the
No.
inset in which the door lives, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, there we
Exactly.
go.
There it
Perfect.
is.
Thank you, Nick.
There it is.
Okay, so again, and forgive me, Nick, that I didn't notice that you had nicely listed the criteria. So this again appears to meet those criteria. And let me just read them off quickly. That is to say, the sort of de facto standard for allowing this as a solution to these violations. It's not installed on a wall facing the street. That's the first thing I just wanted to confirm. It's not obscuring any architectural detail. There's no major renovations happening on the interior of the structure, and it can be installed through the mortar joints, which is going to be important because we are on the brick here.
Right.
So it seems to satisfy those conditions as well. Okay, any other, now that we've established where it is and what it is, commissioners, any other clarifying questions before we take public comment? Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead and do that again. If you want to be heard on the record, please raise your hand in the Zoom using that button that looks like a hand at the bottom of your screen, your Zoom panel, and Nick will unmute you.
Okay, first up we have is Megan with the Civic Association. Megan, go ahead.
Hi, guys. We do not oppose the brass cover box. It satisfies guideline E7. And again, the non-treated finish is preferred so that it can patina naturally. Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Terrific.
Megan.
Thanks, Megan. And sorry, I skipped over Rob. Rob, my deepest apologies.
No, I would defer to Megan all the time. Happy to. No, my only question is I like it too. I agree. I like the brass for the same reasons. I did note though that because it's mounted on the mortar versus on the wooden trim, I noticed in the guidelines, I only noticed this because I was looking at this morning, on 7, when they talk about buzzers and intercoms, it says there's a prefer it's preferably that it's flush mounted in the wood trim versus mounted on the, as you know already. And I understand, I gather here it's probably put where it was because that's where the existing one was, and there was wiring there already. That'd be my guess. But it doesn't mean that it was correctly put there in the first place. It probably wasn't. So to the extent I just would raise it as a, you know, the idea that as a preference, if it could be moved onto the trim, although we normally like the trim as well, and I understand there's a balance there. My sort of understanding of the commission's general preference is to not mount stuff through existing brick of buildings generally, but here it's a little different because it's already been mounted previously. So I understand that, but I just raise it as a question and a comment. Thanks so much.
Yeah, appreciate that, Ralph. I think the again, we've kind of got competing objectives here. One of which is you know, if we keep it where it is, you know, the virtue of that, I think, is it preserves sort of unadulterated all of the wood trim around the door and the entry. Moreover, I think the zoomed in view, yeah, the one of the zoomed in view of the unit as it is now, it looks like it's going to need to be a little wider than the amount of wood that's available. And so, you know, we wouldn't want it to either hang over on the left or cut into that nice clean molding, that OG profile molding to the right. And so that's, I think, the trade-off. And so I think I'm inclined, and especially since the key box is going to stay there, we've kind of already, you know, made a, you know, there will still be a venture out into that surface of brick, even if we relocate this. So I think my inclination would be to preserve the wood unadulterated and just group all of these appurtenances together on the brick. And indeed, to your point, certainly we want to make sure that any mounting or holes drilled for the wiring are just in the mortar, not in the brick. Anyone else? I think, oh, Ralph, did you want to get an order in here?
I think the present location is preferred.
Yeah.
And I agree with not adulterating the wood frame.
Right. We're kind of lucky in this case, actually, in a sense that it hasn't been so adulterated in all these years. Okay. Let's see. Anyone else want to make a public comment before we close that?
Not see any other comments, Mark, so we can close it for this application.
Okay. Sounds like we've got something approaching a consensus, but I don't want to speak too soon. Ed or Annette, any views to the contrary about keeping it there and approving
I
it?
think it's fine as proposed.
Yeah.
Okay. With that in mind, I will move that the application be approved as submitted with the proviso that any mounting hardware or and/or holes necessary to accommodate wiring be made through the mortar joints and not in the brick, and that we've got a drawing, right, Nick? Yeah, and then let's see. Oh, you know what? Sorry, I'm in the middle of a motion here, but Nancy, can you just confirm for us? Are you proposing one of those specific 5 finishes that you showed us, or were you leaving that up to us?
We are proposing the number 1,
Right.
which is
Okay.
a dull brass. It's a dull brass finish.
Okay. And is it treated somehow to make it look like that, or how to? Can you just tell us a little bit? Because there was a comment I think, from Megan about wanting to.
I appreciate Megan's comment, and I agree with it. I think what I would like to do is find out what was, in fact, was number 1 the finish that was used on Beacon, because I think Beacon has patinaed to a nice finish. It's soft. It's not, you know, harsh brass. I think it would look really good. So we will find out, since this company did 87, we'll find out from them what it is, and if that is acceptable to you, that's what we would do.
Okay, that's fine. I think, why don't I add, I'll just restate the motion for clarity.
Yeah,
Moving that the application be approved as submitted with the following provisos. That number one, any mounting screws or other hardware be installed in the mortar, not the brick. And number two, that the finish be done in a consistent manner with that extant at 87, at the box at 87 Beacon, to be confirmed with staff in advance of installation.
excuse me, but I have a question
Sure.
about the screws into the mortar, and I understand why you're suggesting that. I'm just, oh, I see. Yeah, I see where they could be done. I was worried that it was going to take the box too far, enlarge the box too much if you had to go with the screws in the mortar that is going vertically. But we could use the screws on the mortar that is going horizontally. Correct?
Yes. Oh, yes, for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Great.
Okay. Very good.
Okay. Do I hear a second?
Second,
Second.
Okay, I think that was Commissioner Given. We will vote. Commissioner Fleck,
Aye.
Commissioner Given,
Aye.
Commissioner Jackson,
aye.
Commissioner Kiefer votes aye, Commissioner Steele.
Aye.
Okay, the application is approved. Thank you very much, Nancy, for coming in. You'll get a letter from Nick with the particulars detailing our determination. If there are any further questions, please just follow up with him directly. Thanks.
Thank you so much, everybody, for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, next is 160 Mount Vernon. Turning to the design review portion of the hearing. First on that part of the agenda is 160 Mount Vernon. I think I saw Bridget a moment ago. There she is. Hi, Bridget. Let's just, it's under Hickox Williams. Nick.
Here I am. Hi.
Hi, Bridget.
Hi, how
Welcome.
are
Thanks
you?
for coming in. Good. Thanks for
Thank
coming in.
you. Thank you.
You want to just give us a brief summary of what's
Sure.
proposed?
What we're proposing is moving the existing curbstones at the garage gate, which was approved a few hearings back, to match the width of the garden gate. And we're going to do it entirely with existing materials. And great, there you see the piece in question is the one with the double curved ends, and the diagram in the corner labels each of the stones A, B, C, D, and the garage, the gate that was approved is the full width of that fence. And right now the curbstones are placed in such a way that they scrape the underside of a car going over that. And it's on Lime Street. We're not eliminating a parking spot, obviously. Yeah, and that is the toggle back and forth of what we would like to ask for.
Okay, and so again, just to refresh our recollection, you mentioned it in passing. There will be installed a further gate on the right-hand portion of the fence that we're looking at now.
That's
Just
right.
ostensibly above, and that was approved when was that? A few months ago?
Yeah, a few months ago. Yeah.
Okay,
And so that is not yet in place, so we don't have that in the photograph.
Right.
But what we would like to do is ship the curbstones, reuse the brick, the two pieces of granite that would be removed would remain on the site. They would be incorporated in the landscape design so that they're not removed.
Okay. Very good. So we're just talking about the curb cut here, not the fence. That's already
right.
been handled in the prior application. Okay.
Yep.
Any other clarifying questions from the commission before we take public comment on this?
I was going to ask, are you intent to relay the sidewalk using the existing brick and just change the slope as you've indicated in the picture?
Exactly. Yep.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks. And farther down the street, I don't think I submitted a photograph of it, but there is another curb cut that is like the one that we're proposing. It's on the other side of the adjacent gate.
Okay. Okay, anything else from the commission before we take public comment? Okay, well, let's go ahead and take public comment. If you want to be heard on the record, please raise your hand in the Zoom using the handshake button at the bottom of your Zoom panel, and Nick will unmute you.
Okay, first up we have is Rob. Rob, go ahead.
Talking a lot tonight. I don't mean to, but no, these are big issues though, interestingly. So I have a little time tonight, so I'd like to give some comment. I totally understand the concerns of the applicant. I am a little concerned about removing what are likely very historic granite sidewalk pieces. My guess is those are original when there were horses and buggies going through the same space, 100 years ago or something. But I understand the reason is because of potential damage to vehicles going over, and I totally understand that. I was wondering, as an alternative to removing them, could they just be lowered into the sidewalk itself? In other words, instead of protruding up, whether they could be lowered into the facade of the sidewalk so that they would still be visible. And many places around Beacon Hill, they're already pretty low because they've just sort of descended down into the sidewalk. But I thought that might be a compromise where you can still have access to your new space, but retain sort of visually the historic elements that have been there. My guess is back to the horse and buggy days. So that would be my comment. So.
I think we'd be open to that.
Okay, thank you, Rob. We'll come back to that because I think we might have a comment coming up that will shed a little further light on the historicity of those particular pavers.
Okay. All right.
Oh, sorry. Next up we have is Megan.
Hi, everybody.
You got your email on the screen there, Nick, FYI. Can
Okay.
we go back to the picture?
So we believe the existing curb cut to be non-historic, constructed in 1963, when the garage door was first introduced into the rear garden on Lime Street. Therefore, we do not oppose the modifications as they're found to be new work appropriate in character to the property per guideline A3. We'd also like to note that we'd like to note the reuse of the existing materials. It's fantastic. Thank you.
Great.
Terrific. Okay, we are all set. I'm not seeing any other public comment for this, Mark, and I'll turn it back to you for this application.
Okay, thanks, Rob and Megan. That's quite helpful, Megan. So it sounds like, at least based on the research that the Civic Association has done, that this might date to the an earlier era, but not certainly horse and buggy. It's older, but not horse and buggy old at this point. Commissioners, what do we think about this alternative to simply, in effect, lower the stones to the existing stones to the level of the street? I guess it's a trade-off here because it's I don't know how you manage that transition to the other stone that's still going to be.
I think it would look odd.
It would.
I like the symmetry of what's been proposed. It's nice. It matches the fence structure, and it just looks like, in fact, it'll look like it had always been there. The granite being depressed would just raise all kinds of questions about, do we have a sinkhole? why are those things sinking into the ground? I just think it would end up looking odd.
I agree with
I
you.
agree.
Okay, sounds like we have some consensus there. And just finally, likewise, I share those concerns, but also, Bridget, just can you confirm the rightmost stone that we're looking at here, which Nick is indicating, sorry, when even to the right of that, to the one that is, yes, that one, that's the neighbors, right? So that would not, that would stay at its existing height under this
Exactly.
alternative notion. Yeah, so then there's the whole issue, how do you manage that transition from that, whatever it is, 5-inch height or something, to the street? So I think, appreciate the suggestion from Rob, but I think in practice, it might be a challenge to, again, try to minimize the visual impact of this and accomplish the sort of functional, the functional aspect that's motivating this change in the first place. So I think I'm inclined likewise, with my colleagues, to accept it as is. But I didn't mean to speak for my colleagues. I am fine with it as is, particularly given that it's evidently not historic. But does anyone, apart from this issue of how it's done, coming back to the current design as proposed, does anyone have any objections? Okay, does anyone want to make a motion?
I motion to approve
Okay, as submitted, Ralph?
as submitted.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second,
Okay, we will vote. Commissioner Fleck,
Aye.
Commissioner Gibbon,
aye.
Commissioner Jackson,
Aye.
Commissioner Kiefer votes aye, Commissioner Steele.
Aye.
Okay, the application is approved. Thanks, Bridget. You'll get a letter from
Thank you.
Nick as usual.
Thank you, Mark, and
and
thank you,
questions?
commissioners.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks. Bye.
Right. Okay, next is 170 Charles Street, which is, find my agenda here again. Agnes Hayes, the Whitney Hotel, 170. Agnes Hayes or someone else from 170 Charles, aka the Whitney Hotel. Raise your hand when you're Zoom.
Good evening. How are you?
Good. Welcome. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
You want to just give us a quick summary of what we have your application, but you want to just give us a quick summary of what you're proposing?
Certainly. So we're just basically looking to change the two gates here to a solid iron. The alley has become, I mean, it's our trash area. It also becomes, a work area for our engineering team. So, we're just looking to create a little more privacy and not, have our trash exposed to people walking by is basically the gist of it.
Okay, and to further elucidate what we're talking about here, if we zoom in on this, thank you, Nick. Am I correct that you're simply proposing to continue the treatment that is now existing on either side of the gate, where you have a black panel behind this, the ironwork, basically the spindles or the iron bars and so forth, all the way across?
Correct. Yes.
So-
So we had two quotes that we sourced, and basically both of the providers are just basically recommending that they can attach a solid piece of iron. So we're not replacing the gates. All we would be doing is adding a solid piece of iron to cover, as you can see, the trash, and, just give it a little more privacy.
Right, and so it goes on what we're looking at, the back of these gates, so we would still
Correct.
see exposed these iron bars.
The iron bars will stay,
Yeah,
and the solid iron piece will be attached to them.
and Nick, could you just zoom in on one of those sides, just so to give everyone a sense of what we're talking about? So it's going to look like that, right?
Yes.
Yeah, great. And maybe even a little bit you've got in the right-hand gate there on the side there as well. Even just to the left of that, Nick, I think looks like about the first 18 inches of the gate have that treatment now. So like that, Agnes.
Correct.
Yeah, okay. Very good. Any other clarifying questions? And do we have another view, Nick? I think that really shows the garbage cans and what you can see here. I think maybe if you zoom out or something, or there was one that was where the lighting it wasn't quite so dark. Maybe it was another year or something, but yeah, you really can see that right through there. Thank you. Okay, so and these gates obviously are existing. They were pre-approved by this commission when the hotel renovation was done. Commissioners, any other clarifying questions before we take public comment on this? Okay. we'll go ahead and do that. If you want to be heard on the record and you have public comment, please raise your hand in the Zoom using the button on your Zoom panel. Nick will unmute you.
Megan, go
once.
ahead.
Oh, there we go.
You're first up. Yep.
Hi, everybody. We do not oppose the modification to the design of the gate door. We do feel the new iron feature meets guidelines H2, guideline H2, as it's compatible with the contemporary style of the property. It also meets guideline A5 as a contemporary design compatible with the character and style of the building. So thank you.
Thank you, Megan. All right, Mark, I'm not seeing any other public comments, so we can close it for this application.
Okay, thank you. I, for one, am fine with this, particularly since we're still going to have ostensibly this decorative ironwork, or I guess it will become even more decorative. This sort of Mondrian-esque pattern will remain, and it simply will continue the treatment that's already existing on either side of the gate and even in a portion of the gate. Probably make this look better, I think, because again, it'll obscure the trash cans and other things in this alleyway. Anyone else have a different view? Okay, anyone want to make a motion?
I so move.
Can you be more specific?
Yes, as proposed by the applicant.
Thank you.
May
Do I hear
I
a
go
second?
behind?
Thank you, Sandy. Do I hear a second?
Second,
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve as submitted. We'll vote. Commissioner Fleck?
Aye.
Commissioner Gibbon?
Aye.
Commissioner Jackson?
aye.
Commissioner Kiefer votes aye. Commissioner Steele?
Aye.
Thank you very much, Agnes, for coming in. The application is approved. You'll get a letter from Nick summarizing our determination. And if you have any questions, please follow up with him directly. Thanks.
Thank you all. Have a good night.
You too. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Moving just across the street, 135 Charles Street, which is Raymond Austin Sign Company, or I think I see a hand up on a phone number, Nick.
Yep. I believe it's yeah, there you go. You got it, Raymond.
Hello, this is Ray from Boston Sign Company.
Hi, Ray. Thanks for coming in. We've got your application, but you want to just give us a quick summary of what's proposed.
We would like to install a metal sign. We would like to install a metal sign in the location that is shown on the drawing, which is for the tenant that is in the window directly above the sign. This is the location that the landlord has requested that the sign be positioned. It's a metal sign with raised graphics, and that wood that it's the black piece of building that it's going on is made of wood, not stone.
Okay, and just for clarity's sake, Ray, the entry to this retail space is the door to the right, the only door.
Yes.
Up the steps there. Right. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. The sign's metal. Let's see. We've got the dimensions 72 by 14. So 72 wide, 14. There's no other sign for the business now, right?
Correct.
Okay. The oval will be raised. Is that metal as well?
Yes.
Okay, and then 5.5 by 3/8 inch thick raised text beauty. Okay, the raised text, are those individual letters in the word beauty? Are those metal as well?
Yeah, aluminum.
Okay. And it's basically these colors, black and white.
Yes.
Okay. And then you're showing how you're proposing to attach it. There's the place where it would go above that alleyway there. Okay, and to the left of the door or the steps, Okay, commissioners, any questions clarifying questions as to what's proposed before we take public comment?
Yeah, I had one, Mark. I walk through that tunnel daily, multiple times a day. That's all one building. So if you could refresh my memory on the sign rules for multiple businesses in a single structure. I see now from the picture here, not on the application, there is a blade sign for Jay Grady. I was going to ask if they already have one of those band signs, because I know we're particular about how many of those perpendicular, parallel to the street band signs are on a structure. So I just wanted to, if you could remind us what the limits are in that sense.
That's a good question. So the rule is one flat sign per business and one additional projecting sign per building. There is no, I believe the only signage on this building now is the one projecting sign for the other business. And so they're certainly entitled to some kind of flat sign in this case. It's my understanding that this business doesn't have any signage at all. I think Ray has just confirmed that at the moment, but they are allowed a flat sign of some kind on the building, even if there was another one for the other business.
Yeah, I had it backwards. So it's one blade sign and then multiple pen signs as needed.
Yeah, with the sometimes observed exception of very large buildings that have multiple distinct storefronts, like the Charles Street Meeting House or the Lincolnshire and so forth, where we've allowed consistently multiple projecting signs because they ostensibly reflect the distinct storefronts.
Yeah. And I guess my only final observation is that's a very impressive and imposing wooden beam with those bolts. I mean, the grain is visible. It looks like it came right out of the old Ironsides or something. It's really pretty dramatic looking. So I personally would hate to see us cover that up if we found a reasonable alternative location. But others may have their own view. Thanks.
Yeah, I think we'll talk more about what's best in this circumstance in a moment. Indeed, I have similar concerns. Any other clarifying questions as to what's proposed or what's allowed before we take public comment? Okay, let's go ahead and take public comment. If you want to be heard on the record, please raise your hand in the Zoom with the button. Nick will unmute you.
Okay, first up we have is Rob. Rob, go ahead.
I think the sign is kind of large for the space, honestly, but I think that's really for the commission to determine. I have a real issue with the location more than anything else, and partly related on the with respect to the guidelines, which does allow the commission to look at the location and make sure it's appropriate for the building and things of that nature. I'm concerned that it will make a passersby believe that whatever this business is located in that tunnel with the cars. I think it's a confusing placement for the sign. I think that it is within the commission's purview to look at placement of signs as well within the guidelines. I think it'd be much more appropriate somewhere up on the stairwell leading into the business itself. I just think it would, if I were walking by, I'm like Commissioner Fleck, I walk through that tunnel all the time. And I just think it would be very confusing to have it put there. Also, I just don't think, I think it doesn't appear to be associated with any business there. It appears more of an advertising sign than a business related sign because of its positioning. In other words, it's not really related to the entranceway. It's not related to a storefront. It's related to a window that from all appearances, just looks like a residential window. I know it's not, but it appears that way. So I think it's confusing. It doesn't really comply with the guidelines in terms of placement within sort of a storefront area. And I think it could be better designed and placed within the purviews of the commission. Thank you.
May I interject?
I'll tell you what, we're going to take up this issue, Ray, after we've heard all the public comments. So let's, if you don't mind,
okay,
we'll come back to it. I promise.
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry. Next up we have is Megan. Megan, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Nick. So we do oppose, the Civic Association does oppose the location of the sign above the passageway and the lintel. It does not meet guideline I-5 for appearances on the building, effect on the architectural details. And and the installation. The detail drawing shows the attachment into brick mortar joints. But that wouldn't be possible, obviously. And its location proposed centered on the wooden lintel. New notches for attachment might compromise the structural integrity as well as the aesthetic integrity. We understand that there's no traditional storefront for the business, and we welcome the applicant to return with a new design in a new location on the facade. It does look like there might be some blade sign brackets below J. Grady. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Megan. Okay, Mark, I'm not seeing any other public comment, and I'll turn it back to you.
Okay, so we'll close public comment. Thank you, Megan. Thank you, Rob. So Ray, yeah, bottom line is I also have some concerns about the location. I appreciate you said at the outset that's where the landlord wants it. I think an alternative, which although it's
We
not
had an
spelled out-
alternative.
Okay, do you want to tell us what that is?
Can Nick show the alternative, please?
I got it. Yep. Hang on 1 second.
So this is where we proposed the sign to go originally, because we thought it made more sense, and we totally agree with what all the comments that have been made. But the landlord insisted that we propose it where we first showed it. But our original proposed location, which shows it being attached into the mortar, I thought I changed that when they had us move it down into the wood, but I didn't. So the proposed location that we had was to the left of the door, a much smaller sign, and it was attached into the mortar as shown.
Okay, very good. This, I think, to my mind, and fellow commissioners, please chime in here, is much better. This is kind of exactly what I was going to suggest in the alternative for the benefit of the public and commissioners. Just picking up on Commissioner Fleck's earlier question, this is a rare but extant circumstance that we do, or treatment that we do see elsewhere in the district. Street and Company, the realtor down the street on the other side, has one. There's a clothing boutique on this side that's maybe a block down, I think, that has one. And it's something you see in this particular circumstance of the building, where the business in question is in the building, but not in the storefront or the portion of the storefront that features a lintel or other traditional mounting surface for a flat sign. In this case, in this building, it's that other business that is to the right of the door that has the real estate that you might traditionally associate with the placement of a flat sign. And so this seems like the most reasonable location for a sign, because it is, kind of consistent with the location of the business in the building. And of course, it is a flat sign, so it's otherwise compliant with our side guidelines, the city sign code, and so forth. So we might want to worry that fine detail of, do you center it between the door and the window? But I think in general, we're on the right track here. Other commissioners, what do you think?
I agree. The original sign seemed to overscale and implying a direction that one wouldn't go in, implying going into the tunnel.
Yeah.
And also being destructive of the integrity of the beam. So this smaller sign in association with the window seems much more clearer in terms of where the shop is, as well as the scale of the sign.
Right. Commissioner Steele, was that you? Did you want to weigh in
Yes,
there?
it was, and I do agree with the new sign that has been proposed.
Great, thank
Because
you.
I think the other one looks like, as somebody said earlier, you go into the tunnel to get there. I mean, why else would they put it there?
Now, strictly speaking,
Sorry,
of
we
course,
couldn't have proposed that to begin with.
yeah. Oh, not at all. This is very productive, I think. Just to clarify, Ray, the guideline that the Civic Association mentioned, I-5, which is section I is our sign guidelines. The commission will consider the appearance of a proposed sign on the building and on nearby buildings, the effect of the sign on decorative and other architectural details, and ancillary structures like supporting brackets required for installation. And so I think the concern here, our purview is narrow, so we really are only concerned about architectural and historical appropriateness. But it's this issue of kind of the general appearance of the proposed sign, which I think, apart from the potentially misleading nature of it from an aesthetic or architectural point of view, I find it to be awkward if we put it on that lintel. And to Commissioner Jackson's point, this other part of the guideline, the effect of the sign on decorative and other architectural details. As Commissioner Fleck pointed out, I think this wooden lintel above the alleyway opening is a quite unusual and interesting architectural feature. And of course, we understand your clients need to want to have a sign that's reasonably sized so one can identify the business. But the problem in this case is it would, to Commissioner Jackson's point, all but utterly obscure that rare, interesting, and therefore important architectural detail. So I think for all of those reasons, to my mind, guideline I-5 suggests that this second alternative is to be preferred. Anyone else?
I agree.
Commissioners?
Yeah, if I could add just a little comment. First of all, I concur. I think this square format and location is far superior. So thank you. I did hear you talking, Mark, about whether you might center it on the window to the door. I actually like the idea of having a bias to the door. You see that, as you say, the Street and Company and all those. They're medallions, they're wooden, and they're right next to the jamb. So it's no mistaking that you're coaxing the person to use the doorway to access the business. So this at 36 by 32.
That was our intent.
Yeah, this one even strikes me, now that we're in a better format and a better location, I would still encourage it maybe to be a little bit more modest of scale, so it doesn't overwhelm that space. And I think back to up the street, I can't remember the name of VO, it was a clothing store with the bright orange square sign, and I think we were hasty and approved one that was about 36 by 36, and every time I walked by it for 2 or 3 years, I was reminded how oversized it was. So I think this would be similar square, and we might regret, particularly in aluminum, right? It'll be metal, it'll be shiny potentially, depending on the paint. So I think we
no,
have
it's not. It's a satin
much better
finish.
solution. So thank you.
Is it possible to move in closer on the sign, on the image? More. Oh, well, where did it go?
There it goes.
There you go.
Yeah, it's big.
I would disagree with Commissioner Fleck. I would center it between the two elements because it is about what's behind the window. To my mind, crowding it to the door is a bit of a problem, but I agree that it could be a little smaller.
But Ralph, let me ask you, I mean, the window has no functional relevance to the business. It just happens to be for the space. It's not a storefront where there's no display stuff. I would think you'd want to coax people directly to the doorway as the entry point. Wouldn't you?
I'm sorry, I simply disagree.
Okay, no, that's fair.
It could be a little smaller, but I don't feel that the coaxing thing, I don't see the coaxing thing that you see.
Well, I think it's an improvement either way. Over in terms of its
Right.
in terms of its wayfinding
Absolutely.
properties, it's a big improvement. Yeah, I was even thinking just in terms of centering it, just again in terms of the aesthetic of the visual impact on the architecture.
Yeah.
And so maybe something that feels a little more balanced is it draws appropriate attention to itself, but doesn't create a sort of incongruousness that draws the wrong kind of attention to it. Since it sounds like we've got a mix of opinions, another alternative would be to just delegate the exact dimensions and location to staff, that he could work that out.
Oh, could I ask that at least the right-hand side of the, one proposal for, to be looked at is that the right-hand side of the sign line up with the lintels above and below. Do you understand what I?
Yes, yeah, right. Yeah, I was kind of thinking
I
that
aligned
too.
it to the top of the door.
We're talking about
No,
left or right, though.
Horizontally.
I think its location, if I were going to be, I'd center the oval on the middle mullion, but that's probably going too far. But I think if the sign moves to the left so that it aligns with the two lintels, that gives more space to the sign and doesn't compromise the door as much.
In the interest of
What I-
consensus, Ed, are you okay with that?
Aren't we making the sign smaller though? Hopefully.
I'm not asking to make it smaller now. I'm simply asking to shift it over from
No,
my.
Yeah,
but
I think-
I would want it smaller.
Yeah, I think we want to go a little smaller as well. And Ray, we're not talking about drastically smaller here. We're just talking about something that's not quite as,
How about down to 30 inches?
Sounds good.
yeah, I
Yeah,
think that's,
I could live with that. Are we ambivalent about the material, Mark? Maybe not ambivalent's not the right word. I know there was a time when we were very committed to wood everywhere
Wood, yeah.
on Charles Street, but if people are more accepting of the metal,
it's painted,
that's
right?
fine too.
Yeah, we've approved metal before. Nick, right? I mean, you're
We've-
okay with that too?
We've approved metal on multiple occasions,
Yeah, yeah.
correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
enough.
How about this, in the interest of moving us forward and getting some consensus here, that we would reduce the height to 30 inches with the width, the corresponding width being, of the same proportion of what's proposed now, a proportionate reduction, which I can't possibly do in my head at the moment, but that the location be such that the right edge of the sign line up with the lintels above and below.
Okay.
Everyone okay with that?
Yeah.
It's fine.
Okay, I will move that the application be approved with the following provisos, that the second option of a square sign, rather than the wide rectangular sign originally proposed for the lintel above the opening. That is to say that we go with the second option, the square sign mounted on the facade to the left of the door, be approved, with the dimensions to be reduced to 30 inches in height, and with a proportionate reduction in the width, and that the right edge of the sign line up with the lintel above the door and the lintel above the opening, and that finally the installation be done in a manner that fasteners are installed only into the mortar joints and not into the brick.
Second.
Second.
Okay, Nick, did I leave anything out?
I think that's everything,
and-
Mark. Yep.
Okay, great. And so we'll vote Commissioner Fleck,
Aye.
Commissioner Gibbon,
Aye.
Commissioner Jackson,
Aye.
Commissioner Kiefer votes aye, Commissioner Steele.
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much for your attention in this, Ray, and for this very helpful alternative. We appreciate that you went to the trouble to make the drawings and so forth. So now we have them, and now it's approved. You'll get a letter from Nick just affirming everything we just discussed and the details of the determination. If you have any questions, please follow up with him directly. Thanks.
I will. Thank you. I'll send him a new drawing.
Great, thanks.
All right. Good night. Good evening.
Good night, thanks. Next is 7 Smith Court, which I believe is Tim Burke. Tim, are you here? Or someone else from 7 Smith Court? 7
Hi,
Smith, there's Tim.
yes, I'm waiting to be allowed to have video.
Okay. let's see, so we've got.
So sorry,
we've
Tim, we're not doing video for applicants at this time. We've
Oh, okay,
had some
fine.
issues.
Well, you can hear me well, then great.
I can hear you
Okay.
perfectly. Yeah,
Yes.
thank you.
Thanks, Nick. Sorry, and thanks, Tim, for coming in. We've got the application. You want to just give us a quick summary of what's proposed?
Yes, thank you very much. My name's Timothy Burke. I'm the architect for the project. I have a business address of 142 Berkeley Street in Boston. The 7 Smith Court, and the owner is with us tonight, Michael Robertson, as well. The current access to the existing roof deck is through a hatch. You can see this here on the demolition plan, and you can see how that hatch only covers the left-hand side of the stairway. So to get to this roof, you actually have to crawl on your hands and knees and most likely bang your head, which is what I've done, because it's a very limited access. So we're seeking permission to increase the safety of this with a minimal impact to the neighborhood by constructing a head house. You can see a rendering of it there, a 3D view in the center at the top of the drawing. This head house is located right next to 5 Smith Court, which is a taller building to 7 Smith Court. And so the idea was to keep this head house as small as possible, but increase the safety and allow good access to the roof deck. This is the owner's only outdoor space. The house pretty much fills the site. It's a remarkable, beautiful little house. And but to have some outdoor space is very important for everybody. And we feel that this is a minimal amount of work that we would need to do to create this safe access to the roof deck. The initial drawing was proposal is to clad it with red copper that would quickly turn sort of a dark bronze color. The Civic Association Architectural Commission asked me to consider doing it in clapboards, which would match the house, and that's something that the owners would be happy to entertain as well. It would probably be a single ply membrane roof in lieu of the copper roof, and then wood clapboards on the side. I did do a drawing if you'd like me to share it, if you need to see that, but I think it's fairly easy to understand that option with this design. So I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, thanks, Tim. Just for the purposes of clarity at the moment, commissioners, any clarifying questions as to what's proposed?
How tall,
Okay.
how tall is the door?
It's a 6'6" door, so we kept it as low as I could.
Okay, anything else before we take public comment? Okay, let's go ahead and take public comment. If you want to be heard on the record, please raise your hand using the button on your Zoom panel and Nick will unmute you.
Okay, first up we have is Megan. Megan, go ahead.
Hi, everybody. So the committee is opposed to the copper material, and we would recommend, and we're happy to see the blue painted wood clapboard that would match the building instead of the seam copper, which if they do that, it would meet guideline A3. We would like to note that the head house is minimally visible from South Russell Street. And we would just like to note and thank that the homeowner and Tim, Mr. Burke, for being so agreeable to the material suggestion by the committee. Thank you.
Megan, while we have you, just to clarify, you don't have a substantive, or you don't have an objection to the addition of the head house. It's more the materials.
Correct. It's very minimally visible from South Russell Street.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
There used to
Okay.
be an issue of FAR. Was it there at one point?
Yes, we have received a variance from the Boston Zoning Board of Appeal for the additional FAR that's created by this head house.
Okay.
Is that do we have that in our files, Tim?
I can send a copy in to Nick.
Okay,
of the decision, yes.
We'll,
Yeah.
we'll see where we come out, but we might need it, or we might want it.
Sure.
Uh,
Yeah.
Thanks.
Terrific. All right. Next up is Rob. Rob, go ahead. Wow,
Hi.
this guy.
Unlike the Civic Association, I do have a substantive objection to the head house. I find it surprising that no one has yet mentioned, I hope they will get into it a little bit during the discussion, that 7 Smith Court is one of the most historic buildings on Beacon Hill. It is a unique gem property. It sits on Smith Court, one of the most historic courts on Beacon Hill. And the entire, raison d'etre of the Historic Architectural Commission is to protect the architectural elements of Beacon Hill. And this entire building, its roof and its facade and its doorways and everything else should be protected as much as possible. I am very concerned about the addition. Some years ago, the commission may recall, there was an attempt to build another floor on this building.
Yep.
And the neighborhood came out and substantively objected to that in strong numbers, and ultimately it was not allowed to go forward. I'm not sure why there's been such quiet here with respect to this proposed addition. I think it's because it is smaller, it's not a floor, and I totally understand that. I just find that it does violate the guidelines, the roof and roof structures guidelines, both number 1 on original and historic roofing. It's clearly an historic roofing issue. You're changing the roof. The deck enclosure is not minimal. You could definitely have another hatch there. I disagree with the comment that it's a safety issue. That is a red herring. It is not a safety issue. Yes, if it's a small hatch, it can be enlarged. I happen to have a full walk-up hatch on my own house. I walk up, I know what I don't need to crawl. It's the same exact layout that this building has. So an additional hatch that's not visible, that's very low, but larger, I think that would be acceptable. But to say that it's a safety issue and as a result wanting to build a large, not original, totally foreign to this unique structure, addition to this house is well out of what should be done on this historic structure. I mean, the fact that this was, part along with the African Meeting House, one of the most historic areas for Black history on Beacon Hill, and that this kind of change that is even being considered to this building, I'm very concerned about it. For the reason is it's just for convenience. It's not necessary. And for this kind of structure and the modifications under the guidelines, it has to be special circumstances to make a change in an historic roofing application. We don't have that here. It's just not here. So I don't think it complies with the guidelines, and I do not think the commission should deviate from the guideline in this unique circumstance because of the unique historic character of this building on a unique and historic street. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Okay, I think that is all the comments that we have, Mark.
Okay,
And
thank
I'll
you.
turn it back to you. Yep.
Okay, thanks. So close public comment. I neglected to say at the outset, I'll just say now, I want to just make a disclosure on the record. I'm on the board of Peter Faneuil House, which is an abutter to this. It's actually the only point of visibility from the public way, if there is any, is through the fence of the Peter Faneuil House. So I'm not going to recuse myself, but I just want to make that disclosure on the record. I think I appreciate, Rob, your comments and the concern. Certainly Smith Court is of particular historic significance in the broader context of the historic district, and certainly the North Slope in particular. But I would remind us that, of course, our jurisdiction is limited and our purview is narrow. And of course, most fundamentally, our jurisdiction only extends to those architectural features that can be seen from a public way. This proposed architectural feature cannot be seen from Smith Court or the adjacent public way on Joy Street. It's only visible from some remove from South Russell Street through the fence of the playground at the Peter Faneuil House. And again, then at some distance and only for a very short stretch of the street through the fence and through the intervening trees can one even see the general location for which this is proposed. I went out and looked at this and I did not see it at all, which is to say I did not see the mock-up. I could not see it. I could only see the portion of the approximate portion of the roof where I would understand it to be located. And so to me, in my observation, literally, this is de minimis if visible at all. Now, I appreciate that it's the summer, and so there are leaves on the trees, and at other points in the year, that visibility might be greater. But we did have occasion to look at this earlier. And Tim, maybe you can remind us when you brought this before us before. But I had occasion to look at
last fall, yes.
Yeah. And I similarly concluded, having looked at it then, that the visibility was de minimis and I want to be precise here because this is important given the concerns that Rob appropriately raised. De minimis for two reasons. One is, as a practical matter, I simply could not see the mock-up. And the second is, we have made a distinction in the past when adjudicating applications for elements on the roof on roofs, and we've made a distinction with respect to not just the visibility, but importantly the visual impact. In other words, how does what we see architecturally change before and after the addition of the proposed alteration? What you can see a bit more readily, although again at some significant remove and through trees, is the railing that's now shown at the top of the drawings, let's say in the second from the left on the bottom panel of this drawing. That's just for clarity's sake for the commissioners and the public. That's a roof deck railing that exists already on an adjacent building. It's not part of this property. And so to whatever extent this proposed structure would be visible, it would only be visible against, number one, the side elevation of the building, and then number two, the uppermost portion of it against this existing railing. So it's not visible against the open sky. And in terms of the visual impact, what you'd actually see in practice, I think would be barely distinguishable. Again, just to recap, I could not make it out at all from this location. You have to look if we actually yeah, it's I mean, yeah, that's what we're talking about. It's not that brick building with the chrome chimney. It's below that and to the right. And so it's within this narrow corridor. It's not that building either, by the way, that's in the corner. It's the one in front of that building, right? So it's that building right there. So and again, importantly, it's not that upper roof deck structure, which is the house next door. There's the roof right in the middle by Nick's cursor. And so if you follow the sight line between those two large buildings to the left, right there and then so it's got to go through there and then through that other corner, through those trees, through the fence, and that's where you can see it from. It's about a 4-foot stretch. And again, I could not see the mock-up. So I just think it's de minimis. And so I don't have an issue on that basis, notwithstanding the sensitivity of this property, of this its context on Smith Court and so forth, because you can't see it from Smith Court, and at least at the moment you can't see it from here either. Anyone else? Comments, questions, concerns, rebuttals? Okay, so unless there is a further or a dissenting view with respect to whether or not we ought to approve it at all, what about the proposal, which I believe Megan said in discussion, and forgive me if I don't want to misstate this, Megan, but I believe you said in your written comments, if you didn't just say it verbally, that the proposal to use a clapboard treatment, maybe you said it, Tim, forgive me, but rather than the copper was preferred. Commissioners, again, I think to me, it's 6 of one, half dozen the other, because you can't really see the thing. But does anyone have any thoughts about how, if you think it's okay that we approve it, what the exterior treatment should be?
I actually like the copper. I think if you're gonna do it, you should do it in copper. It'll have more of an original look to it.
Yeah, I would tend to agree because I think it'll be more durable because if you do the clapboard, it's more likely to require painting, to not be painted in a timely fashion and to start to look poorly maintained, whereas the copper doesn't require that sort of upkeep and it'll look better for a longer period of time.
Okay. I mean, again, I think I'm indifferent because I don't think you can see it. And I think maybe if, in another season, if it's slightly, ever so slightly visible, that that's a detail that we're not likely to make out. I should point out, for what it's worth, if the intention of the clapboard treatment is to try to better harmonize it with the building proper, as it were, the house, you can't see the house at all. And so from any vantage point within our purview, there won't be any, you won't have the occasion to be able to see that visually.
Right. No, I like Annette, I think I was referring to, the aesthetic for the abutters, for the people looking out their windows, in the morning, drinking their coffee. What does it look like for their view shed, right? For a pedestrian, you're absolutely right. I mean, there's no visibility, so the material is irrelevant. But, as a general matter, I guess was commenting that I think it would look better longer, for those who could see it in whatever location they happen to be and looking down on it from their apartment, what have you.
Right.
I mean, if that's not in our purview, then it's irrelevant, but I think it speaks to the qualities that the materials represent and how they age and weather.
Okay. So it sounds like maybe the consensus is to approve it as submitted. Does anyone want to make a motion?
I'm going to abstain, so.
Okay. I'll make a motion that notwithstanding the guideline with respect to rooftop structures, that due to, in this specific circumstance, a finding of de minimis visibility, that from the public way within defining our jurisdiction, that the application be approved as submitted, with the proviso that the determination that the variance, that a copy of the variance from the Zoning Board of Appeal with respect to the structure be supplied to staff in advance of any construction.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. We will vote. Commissioner Fleck.
Aye.
Commissioner Gibbon.
Aye.
Commissioner Jackson.
Aye.
Commissioner Kiefer votes aye. Commissioner Steele.
Abstain.
Okay, thank you, Tim.
Great. Thank you very much.
You'll
Yes.
get a letter from Nick.
Okay, and I'll send you the decision. Yes.
Great, thank you. Okay, finally, I think, 46 Chestnut Street, which is, let's see.
Also Tim.
Oh, also Tim.
Yes, yeah,
Very
I'll
good.
hang around.
That's
Yes,
easy.
yeah.
Yes, thanks, Tim, for sticking around. Again, you want to just give us a quick summary of what's proposed?
Yes, thank you very much. 46 Chestnut Street runs through from Branch Street to Chestnut. What you're seeing here on the right-hand side is the existing elevation from the Branch Street side, the back of the house. And you can see there is a garage door existing on the left-hand side of the building. And but the garage extends all the way across the entire back of the building. And so I think the initial design thought was they could drive in and turn, but in reality, it's almost impossible to get the car over to that side. So we're seeking permission to add a second garage door, as I show on the left-hand side. And that would also incorporate within it a person door as the second means of egress for the house. And I've included some photographs here in the presentation. I don't know if you have those handy, Nick. Yep. there are 22 garage doors on Branch Street right now. This would be the 23rd. And I've included some similar situations where the garage doors is in the wall of the house. These two right here are directly across the street from the Chestnut Street property. And so we feel that it's something that we see a lot on Branch Street. And to be able to have this garage door is very important to the owner, just to be able to make use of the garage space that is currently there, but hard to get to. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. The owner is with us here as well tonight. So.
Just one clarifying question, Tim. I know the answer, but just for our own edification, if we can go back to the drawing of the proposal for a second. So the garage door that's on the left that's existing, that's
Correct.
shown in both, that's in the garden wall as distinct because we've only got you're collapsing 3 dimensions to 2 here. That's in the garden wall, not the rear facade of the house, which is actually further distant from the street than the L on the right.
No, it's all building there underneath there. Yep. There's a garage space. You can drive straight in and you're inside. There's a roof over that area.
Right, but that's not the rear facade of the building, right? That's
correct. Yeah, the back elevation is further back, the main section of the house. What you see on the right is an L that was built over time and kind of looks like it was added on to over time. Yes.
Right. Okay. We're going to come back to that, I'm sure, but just thanks for that clarification. Any other clarifying questions before we take public comment? Okay, hearing none, why don't we go ahead and take public comment? If you want to be heard on the record, please raise your hand using the button on your Zoom panel and Nick will unmute you.
Okay, first up we have is Megan from the Civic Association. Megan, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. So the Civic Association's opposed. The plan removes the historic man door and window as shown on the right image. The proposed brick infill isn't appropriate, and the plan violates the guideline A7 against new openings in the main building facade, despite that existing 1970s garage that we see, since it's on the other elevation. The removal of the historic man door and window fundamentally and significantly changed the building facade. Additionally, the proposed plan introduces a carriage garage door, which is a style that predates the mid-century existing door, which was introduced in 1970. The new style door proposed reflects neither the original building style nor the existing garage door. Therefore, it also does not meet guideline A3 as either a missing architectural feature or appropriate detail style for new work. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. Okay, Mark, I'm not seeing any other public comments for this application, so we can close it at this time.
Thanks, Megan. So we'll close public comment. Before we get started in our discussion of this, let me just remind the commission and the public, again, our jurisdiction is limited, our purview is narrow. And since this has come up in the past, I just want to remind everyone respectfully that we are only to consider those aspects of the proposal that are squarely within our purview, which is to say specifically architectural and historical appropriateness. We cannot and will not consider other potential ancillary impacts of the proposal, such as its impact on traffic or the functional qualities of the garage, such as the turning radius or other ancillary impacts like noise and so forth. And so we really need to concern ourselves both in our discussion and in our adjudication with only those aspects that deal specifically with the architectural and historical appropriateness of the proposed alteration, which is the replacement of the existing pedestrian door and window with the proposed garage door. Let me also say at the outset, it's important to consider another instructive but not necessarily determinative aspect of the proposal, which has been raised already by the applicant, which is other apparently or potentially similarly situated proposals and how we've treated them in the past, which is to say, what exactly is our record of decision with respect to proposals for garage doors? It is clearly perhaps helpful to recognize that there are many garage doors on this street and some other streets in Beacon Hill. But importantly, for our purposes, I think we need to concern ourselves, at least to the extent that we base our decision on our prior record of decision. We need to base that on those extant examples of garage doors that in fact do reflect affirmative decisions of this commission, which is to say more specifically, well, it is not hard to find other garage doors even in the immediate vicinity of this building and on other streets in Beacon Hill, or that even more specifically, at least appear to be in, as Tim, the applicant, put it, the wall of the building or the facade of the building, rather than simply a garden wall or fence. That there are a number of such garage doors that we can observe, the installation of which predates the establishment of the Historic District and the Architectural Commission. And so those grandfathered alterations, as it were, or even to the extent that they might even be original features of buildings predating the Historic District, are not instructive for our decision tonight and should not be considered because they are I think irrelevant to the decision because they predate the commission. There are also a couple of examples of L's on buildings that have garages in the district that are wholly new construction, where the garage that is now extant was part of the construction of the L in the first instance. And so likewise, I don't think that's instructive for our purposes. And so I think that's important because, again, it's tempting to simply say, well, surely there are other examples like this. That doesn't mean that we approve them. And let me also just say, because it's come up in the past and in our adjudication of other proposals, Nick has done a fairly extensive research to catalog to the maximum extent possible that record of decision. That is to say, where we have affirmatively approved garage doors in the past. And it is true that we have. But as we described when talking about this research under prior applications, some recent, we determined that the record of decision of this commission with respect to garage doors has been consistent and that they have been approved really in one specific circumstance, which is even more specifically a combination of two conditions. The first of which is that we've only approved garage doors in the context, the architectural and historical context of what could broadly or generally be described as a back street, where the street was not in its first instance, or even as it remains today, a street featuring the front or main facades of houses, but rather the backs of houses. And so this street, Branch Street, certainly is such a back street. The others would be like Byron Street or Joy Place, Mount Vernon Place, etc. The other circumstance, importantly, that we have found from just confirming with the research that Nick has done, in which we have approved new garage door openings, has been when the opening proposed was to be introduced in a garden wall or fence rather than the actual facade of the building. And by facade of the building, I mean either the original facade of the building as it was originally constructed or the facade of a rear L, which is the case that we have here. So we don't have instances where we have approved the introduction of a new opening in the masonry for the introduction of a garage door in the facade of the building. And that's important. As Megan pointed out, we have a guideline, specifically A7, that talks about this issue specifically. I think she may have read it, but I'll just read it again for for our consideration. New openings and facade shall not be allowed, and no changes shall be made to existing window and door openings unless they involve the restoration of original features for which there's supporting documentation of the original feature. So, for example, we did approve a garage at 101 Pinckney Street within the last year, but that was in a garden wall and not in a facade. And so what distinguishes those two circumstances is the garden wall is not in a strict sense, or even in a general sense, something that could be considered a facade. A facade is the face of a building. And so that's, I think, I want to just lay out that context. I will cut to the quick and say I'm inclined to deny this for those reasons. Number one, it's inconsistent with guideline A7 because it clearly reflects the introduction of a new opening in a facade. Number two, well, I think the proposal passes the backstreet test. It fails with respect to where the garage door is being introduced, because in this case, it's clearly in a facade and not a garden wall or a fence. And then thirdly, with respect to just generally the architectural or historical appropriateness, there is no extant example in Beacon Hill of a townhouse that has a garage that was an original feature in a facade of the building, which is what we're talking about here. This building across the street, for example, this was a loading dock that was converted into a garage at some point in its history. There are other examples of garages on Branch Street that are effectively garages now because perhaps like the left-hand garage in this one, a roof has been built over the garden space to shelter a car that's gaining access through a garage opening. But in general, we simply don't see garage doors as original features to historic facades or even historic L's in the back of a building. And that's important, I think, in the present case, and I'll stop talking, I promise, because this L, well, a later addition to this significant townhouse that fronts on Chestnut Street is certainly historic in its own right and is quite old. And we have the maps and others that show that a rear L in this building reached all the way to Branch Street as early as 1880, I think it is, Nick. Is that correct?
1874.
1874.
It's shown on this map here. I think I'm showing it. Yeah.
Right. So this is unusual in terms of the scale of this house. It's very, very large. These L's were generally later additions. It's rare in general, not unheard of, but it's pretty rare in general that an L would extend all the way to the rear lot line. This is well before the zoning law and so forth. This is just one of those rare instances where a historic L that is of significant vintage indeed did extend all the way to the rear lot line. And so it is quite an old feature of the building dated to 1874. You'll see there's a little bit of a notch in it. And I suppose you might say the proposed garage door would, at least a small portion of it would be in that notch. But Nick's research indicates that even the filling in of that notch is over 100 years old. It's 1908, I think, Nick, is that right?
That's correct.
Yeah,
Yep.
1908. So all to say, bottom line, it's in a facade, not a garden wall or fence, and it's a historic facade that is of significant vintage. And so it's inconsistent with the guidelines. It would be removing historic fabric from this historic facade, and it would introduce an architectural treatment that is inappropriate from a historical point of view, given that it's simply not a historic feature of a townhouse of this nature. So that's my view, and that's why I'm inclined to deny it. But I would invite your further thoughts, commissioners.
Mark, maybe speak to the two examples that that Tim gave across the street in showing, talking about this map.
So thanks, Nick. You know, there are maybe there's one other circumstance that I neglected to mention, which is important perhaps for our consideration, which is, of course, there were purpose-built buildings that were, at least initially, of course, not perhaps to house automobiles, but were carriage houses. And so there are certainly extant, what are now garage door openings that originally would have been carriageway openings in buildings that are original or early features of carriage house buildings. You see some of these on Byron Street, for example, and you see at least one of them here. Is that what we're talking about, Nick?
That's correct. It's actually the two adjacent ones. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, you also see maybe there's even a third variant down the street at what I guess is 56 Beacon, where you have what's now an enclosed garage. There's another one at 60 Beacon, but these are effectively separate structures that are not part of either the original house, neither the original house nor the L. So they're introduction of garage openings in a detached and architecturally distinct separate structure that bears no direct relationship, architecturally speaking, to the house itself. So that's just not what we have here. Nick, is that kind of covering it, or?
That's correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Could I offer a different sort of attitude?
Go ahead, please.
Say L facade. Oh, can you hear me?
Yes, please go ahead, Commissioner Jackson.
It's an L facade, which is not historic, which the facade that is representation of the historic nature or design of the building is the front facade. This is a service element that was added to the back of the building. The informal nature of the facade suggests that one wasn't concerned with the sort of facade issues that you're suggesting that it represents. It was a service entry. It was the informality of the composition of the wall presents it as secondary to the original building. So if one extends it to the street, then it becomes it was a service entry on the lower level. The question is, as a service entry, is it purely a doorway, or is it could there be a carriageway or something in that location? Because this is a service entry to the building.
Sure. I don't disagree with that characterization at all, certainly. And I think it's probably fair to say that it was a service entry back in 1874 when that L was first constructed. Again, this is a back street. It's certainly the back of the building. I think there's no ambiguity about that. But I guess I would make an important distinction between the general character of the which facade. It's certainly a secondary facade, as you say, but
it's a service facade.
Yeah, sure. It's both of those things, I think. But I think there's still the question of what is historically appropriate. And since a garage door was never a historical feature, to the best of my understanding, and Tim, you should correct us if we're wrong, if you have any evidence that there was ever a garage opening in this rear L in the location in which proposed, certainly we need to know that. I don't believe there was.
No, I have no evidence of that. I do know, though, if you look in the definition of facade, it refers to the primary elevation of the house. So Chestnut Street is the facade. I don't see this as a facade if you read the definition. And I read several dictionaries before this meeting, but they all say it's the principal elevation of the building, which, in this case is Chestnut Street. So I feel that there's so many garages here now. It's not an unusual item to see on Branch Street, which was originally called Kitchen Street because it's how all the kitchens were served for the mansions on Beacon and Chestnut. But and I know you mentioned that you don't really consider the function of the house, but it would mean so much to the owners to be able to utilize the space.
How many cars they have?
Right. I think notwithstanding, and again, we can certainly argue about exactly what we mean by facade. Unfortunately, the guideline does not define it, and objectively speaking, so And I don't know that we ought to speculate about exactly what the intent was in the drafting of the guideline. It's a guideline after all, and not strictly speaking a rule. But certainly the guidelines are an essential part of what we do, giving us a sense for what we're likely to approve or not approve. I think my position on this doesn't rely on whether or not this should be considered a facade, because I think I come back to the notion that there was never a garage in this building, and there was never a garage as an original architectural feature of any similarly situated building on this street or otherwise anywhere in the historic district. Again, you can find a garage in an L, but it was when they built the entire L with a garage. It simply doesn't exist, has never existed as an original architectural feature in the rear L of a building. And I think it's a matter of that it's not historically appropriate whether or not we treat this as a facade. I think you could argue that over time, while it is certainly not the primary face of the building, it doesn't face the main street, it's not where the main entrance is, that there is a not insignificant amount of architectural character, detail, and intention that's now reflected in this elevation of the building. I'm thinking most obviously of the two Italianate Oriels on the second and third floor. And so, well, it's a service entrance at the street level. It's not to say that there's no architectural character worthy of recognition on this building. And I think it's also true that perhaps consistently with a number of the neighbors' properties that it wouldn't be correct to say that no amount of architectural attention, detail, or care were given to the rear sides of these buildings, because while they're not, maybe it's not the primary elevation, they do reflect a degree of architectural character. And so I think in this case, I just come back to whether you want to call it a facade or not, whether you think the guideline ought to control. I think more broadly, our mandate to consider architectural and historical appropriateness would say that this is not historically appropriate for this building. And so, Ralph, that's kind of where I'm coming from.
Well, I'm looking at, when you show the drawings, I'm looking at the informality of the facade, the rear facade. It's very situational as opposed to the front-facing facade, which I'm certain is highly organized. This is chaotic. Yes, it's all of a particular period or a couple of periods that are representational, but it's not a front-facing expression. But we follow I follow where you lead us. And you've made a choice about the significance of the L. I simply wouldn't have gone in that direction, but you are our leadership.
Well, again, I'm just I appreciate your perspective, Ralph, certainly, and I think I understand, of course, the instinct to want to make good architecture apart from abstracted from, at least for the moment, our guidelines and our purview and so forth. And so I think there are instances, perhaps unfortunately, perhaps not, where the desire to simply make it work better architecturally or even look better architecturally, or both, are in effect precluded by the mandate of our enabling legislation and our purview here. And I think that I am not inclined to introduce an ahistorical element even in the service of what might arguably be better architecture. And that's kind of where I'm coming from. So I recognize the desire, I think, the well-founded desire to want to make it better. But again, I don't think we can introduce something ahistorical in the service of a better or more aesthetic design.
Well, my goal was serviceability, not aesthetics, but
well, again, I think we're limited sufficiently in our purview that we can't consider does this make for a more functional garage? And again, I appreciate why the applicant is bringing this before us. It's not unreasonable to want a more serviceable, a more functional garage, but that's just outside of our purview.
thank you.
Anyone else have a view, one way or the other?
I agree with you in that this is Sandy steel. And I think that I remember when I was in front of this body, maybe 15 years ago, and it was to get one door. And we found historically how there had been a door in that it was a fence. And it wasn't easy to find that. And it wasn't easy to get another opening. And I think this house has an opening and they should be happy they have it. And so I agree with you, Mark.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Steele. Commissioners Flecker, Given, do you want to get an oar in here?
No, I'm aligned with your logic,
Same.
Mr. Chairman.
Okay, any other thoughts, comments, questions before we move to go to a motion? Okay, I will move as follows, that in light of the and consistent with number one, guideline A7, number two, the Commission's consistent record of decision with respect to the proposed introduction of new garage door openings, having found that based on our research, such approvals have been limited strictly to the circumstance of both a back street and the introduction of said garage door into a fence, an extant fence or garden wall, and not a face of a building, and that in this case, the proposal is to introduce the garage door directly into the rear L of the building, and that no extant examples of garage doors as original features in rear Ls of buildings exist in the district, and that moreover, the L in question into which the garage door would be introduced is a historical feature in this building dating at least to 1870 to 1908 and likely to 1874 for all practical purposes under our consideration. That the introduction of the proposed garage door would be historically and architecturally inappropriate in this specific circumstance, being inconsistent both with the guidelines and our prior consistent record of decision with respect to garage doors, and that accordingly the application be denied. Does anyone want to second that?
I'll second it.
Okay, we will vote. Commissioner Fleck.
Aye.
Commissioner Gibbon.
Aye.
Commissioner Jackson.
Aye.
Commissioner Kiefer votes aye. Commissioner Steele.
Aye.
Okay, so the application is denied. Tim, I'm sure that was not the outcome you were hoping for, but you'll get a letter from Nick summarizing our determination. And please feel free to follow up with him if you need to.
Great. Thank you very much. Have a good night. Yep.
Thank you. Okay, let's see. I just want to remind myself out loud that we still need to approve the minutes. But let's go on to administrative in case anyone has any public comments they want to get on the record so they don't have to wait around for the minute stuff. Again, just as a reminder, 2 Walnut is not to be included as it's been pulled from the agenda, so that's not on here. Any other comments, questions, concerns, or recusals for any of the administrative review items? Okay, does anyone want to make a motion to approve them en masse?
Mark, I'm so sorry.
Yes.
Hold on for
public
just
comment. Yeah, sorry.
Yep. But also, Let me just take a look at something. Okay, yeah, that's fine. Okay,
We'll
Rochelle,
take public
I'm
comment.
sorry, Megan, go ahead. Sorry, I'm used to saying Rochelle. Yeah.
No, it's okay. Hi, guys. Just regarding 11 Lewisburg Square, and their electrical plug near the main entrance. We feel that the new electrical plug would be better placed within the main entrance area or basement window trim, just to meet guideline A9 for an even less
Obtrusive.
less of an impact. We feel the electrical box, although very small, should not penetrate the historic brick or brownstone of the front facade of the building.
And Mark, I'm happy to bring up that that application. I wasn't able to see it. I'm sure if you squint or a car was moved, you'd be able to see it, but happy to discuss.
This is 11 Lewisburg Square.
Yes, sir.
Right. Okay. Okay. Well, if you couldn't see it, I'm satisfied that it's it sounds like it's either likely exempt or de minimis.
Yep.
Appreciate, Megan, though, the thought to try to make it better for sure. Nick, do you have any sense of if you could with just some friendly conversation with the applicant make it better without burdening them further?
Yeah, this is Monica Polly. I'm sure
Yeah.
she'd be happy to work with me on this if that's what was asked for. Yeah.
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind, I think that
Sure.
would be helpful.
Mhm.
Okay. Megan, did you have anything else? Was it just that one?
Megan?
I think we also just wanted to say that we're not opposed to the new handrail at 41 Pinckney. But other than that, that's it. I think our concern, we realized that for 11 Lewisburg Square, that the visual impact is our favorite word, de minimis.
Right.
Our concern, because being realistic, our concern was if maybe if they could be open to not drilling into the brick or the brownstone. That's all.
Right.
Really small.
Yeah.
That's
Okay, great. Yeah, we'll Nick will follow up, and I suspect we may be able to accommodate that.
yeah. Thank you very much.
Any other public comment on administrative review items? Okay, hearing none. Does anyone want to move approval en masse?
I just wanted to note, Mark, I need to
Yes.
recuse myself from 144 Chestnut, please.
Got it. Thank you.
But only that one of the
Right.
batch.
Okay, and when we vote, you can just note your abstention, if you like.
Of course.
Okay. Okay, I'll go ahead and move approval en masse of the administrative review items. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second.
Thank you, Ralph. Thank you. We will go ahead and vote. Commissioner Fleck,
I except for abstention on 144 Chestnut, please.
thank you. Commissioner Gibbon,
Aye.
Commissioner Jackson,
Aye.
Commissioner Kiefer votes aye, Commissioner Steele.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. They are approved. And Nick, thanks in advance for following up with Monica on 11 Lewisburg Square.
Got it.
Let's see now. Shall we
Wanna
go
just do
back
the
to
minutes?
the minutes? Yes. So Ralph, we're glad you were able to join us. We have deferred till now the approval of the minutes. And again, they were the minutes of the last two meetings because we weren't able to approve April's in May. So it's the April, we'll start with the minutes for April 2026 hearing. Any questions, edits, revisions, concerns about the minutes?
No. No.
Does anyone want to move approval of the minutes from April 2026?
Aye.
Okay, do I hear a second? I'll second. Okay, so it's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of the April 2026 hearing. We will vote. Commissioner Fleck,
I abstain.
Commissioner Gibbon.
Aye.
Well,
Well, I wasn't here, but
You can abstain if you want to do that.
I'll abstain. Yeah, that's
Okay.
right.
Commissioner Jackson,
Aye.
Commissioner Kiefer votes aye, Commissioner Steele.
I'm gonna stay and I wasn't here.
Okay,
Need-
thank you.
We didn't get a consensus there, Mark.
Okay, so do
Um,
we just vote them again next time?
Yeah, we could why don't you go to the May and I'm gonna pull up the bylaws. So
Okay.
yeah,
I'll try to speak slowly while you do that. So now on to the minutes of the May 2026 public hearing of the Beacon Hill Architectural Commission. Does anyone have any edits, revisions, questions, comments on the minutes, draft minutes?
No,
Okay, by the way, Nick, I think another option would be to simply ratify the vote we just took when we have a quorum.
Yeah,
But
we
we
could
can
do
also
that.
do it again. Okay, so do we gonna have the same issue? Is it, who was not here for May?
I wasn't.
I wasn't.
Okay,
Nor
we are
was
gonna have
I.
the same, okay, we're gonna have the same issue, I think. Nick, why don't we just put this one off then?
I think it's fine. That's fine.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
so we'll come back to the May minutes and if necessary, ratify the April minutes next time.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
Okay, very good.
Okay. Okay. And then in terms of step updates, I don't really have any updates, just happy Juneteenth, everybody. So,
Oh, that's right.
All right, there you go, same to you.
and the offices will be closed tomorrow in case anybody tries to get in touch with me. So,
Right,
Nick,
okay.
could I ask, do I need to notify you in advance that I'm attending? I saw you had a list of substitutes, and I was wondering if it,
no, you don't have to notify me if you're attending. You have to notify me if you're not attending.
okay. How sensible.
Right,
Yeah. So yeah, so that's it. That's all I have for you guys.
okay,
you
great,
for
thank you,
coming
Nick.
tonight. Yep.
Thank you, everyone. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, do we hear a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Bye.
Aye.
So,
Thanks, everyone, good
Thank
meeting.
you.
all
Bye
See you
right.
now.
next month. Have a
Stay
good
dry
weekend.
tonight.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.